Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, July 28th, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. We are here in Houston, National Urban League Convention. We're going to hear from Ben Crump, Al B. Shore, Wendy Raquel, Houston Area Urban League CEO Judson Robinson III. Lots to talk about that's taking place here in Houston. Also on today's show, Alabama officials have charged Carlee Russell with 2 misdemeanors. She's been arrested. We'll tell you about that as well. Plus, we got Education Matters, and there's always something happening with that idiot Donald Trump. And so guess what? Out in Florida, Senator Tim Scott and Byron Donalds, both of them criticizing Ron DeSantis over slavery in textbooks in that state. Wow, those two brothers finally woke up. We'll discuss it all. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And
R. Brown Convention Center, site of the National Urban League Convention. Glad to see all of you right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Carlee Russell, the Alabama woman who says she was abducted after seeing a baby walking along the highway. Turned out to be a lie. She was today arrested. This is her mugshot. She has been charged with 2 misdemeanor counts. Please show the mugshot, please. Okay, all right, y'all. It's available. Pull it, please. She's been charged with 2 misdemeanor charges: false reporting to law enforcement authorities and falsely reporting an incident. The Alabama Attorney General, Steve Marshall, says she could be hit with more charges. Hoover Police Chief Nick Durzis was not happy at all and said he wishes she could face harsher penalties.
I know many are shocked and appalled that Ms. Russell is only being charged with 2 misdemeanors, despite all the panic and disruption her actions caused. Let me assure you, I too share the same frustration, but existing laws only allow the charges that were filed to be filed. I can tell you that I will be contacting our state legislatures on behalf of law enforcement in Montgomery and asking them to look at this law applied to these facts and urge them to add an enhancement to current legislation when somebody falsely reports kidnapping or another violent crime.
We don't see this as a victimless crime. There are significant hours spent, resources expended as a result of this investigation. And not only that, but the many men and women who are civilians that wore those yellow vests on a hot afternoon and evening looking for someone they thought was abducted, trying to be of assistance. We intend to fully prosecute this case and look forward to working with the Hoover Police Department moving forward. We also would tell you that we will continue to monitor this investigation to determine whether or not there are any additional charges that need to be brought, and we'll evaluate those as the facts are presented.
All right, folks. A Class A misdemeanor is punishable by not more than 1 year in a county jail or a year of labor. My panel, Michael Imhotep, hosts the African History Network show. Killa Bethea, communication strategist. She's out of D.C. We have, of course, Michael. He's out of Detroit. And Matt Manning, civil rights attorney, out of Corpus Christi. All right. Glad to have all 3 of you here. Okay, so let me go ahead and start right here. 1, do I believe she should have been charged, Matt? Absolutely. Do I believe she should be facing penalties? Absolutely. But let me just cut to the chase. What we just heard are 2 assholes. And the reason I'm saying that, to say, oh, we're going to go to the state to change the law to make it harsher. First of all, she can be hit with the fine. The judge could actually say, you got to pay for the expenses. That was the case. It's up to a year in jail. What the hell is harsher? And again, I'm not defending Carlee Russell, but I am pissed off to listen to these 2 guys stand here and act like, oh my God, the world ended because it was a hoax. The laws on the books right now are just fine.
Yeah, I think so completely. I think you're exactly right. That was my exact thought. And the law in Texas is precisely the same. So it's a Class A misdemeanor up to a year in jail. And before I heard that or saw that reported, I was hoping that it was not going to be a felony that she was charged with, because this statute is written for this exact scenario. And I think you're right. I think restitution could be charged where she has to pay for the victims and other people who are involved in helping look for her. But I really have 3 thoughts about this case to keep it succinct. The first is, I hope that this does not make law enforcement disbelieve Black people anymore, because we know the data is that Black victims often are not believed, and they don't go as hard on cases where Black people are victims. So, Carlee Russell, as a discrete issue, I hope does not metastasize into a larger issue where law enforcement does not, service Black victims. That's the first thing. The second thing is, this is exactly an example of why we need to be nuanced in punishment. A year in jail as a prospect is a very long time, as is a $6,000 fine. Talking about increasing the charges in response to this happening ends up with a draconian punishment. And the reality is, people lie all the time in court. People lie all the time to the police. But you know what? Police lie all the time as well. And what happens? They might get fired, but they don't get prosecuted for a year or a felony for making false charges. So, I mean, I think it's at the right level, and I think trying to change it makes that incredibly problematic. And the last thing is the AG is now prosecuting this. And what I think is problematic about this is they're going to turn it into a political football, and it's not that. It's a young woman who has presumably some issues that turned into this false accusation, and individually that needs to be dealt with her, hopefully with including any mental issues she may be dealing with and appropriate rehabilitation. But this should not become some bigger law enforcement issue that allows them to now grandstand, make it a felony, and go out on witch hunts. And that's what we're seeing happen in legislatures around the country, particularly here in Texas and in places like Alabama. So I'm hoping that this is just a discrete issue with Carlee Russell and does not catch wildfire in that respect.
This is just, again, Kelly, there's no reason in the world for the state attorney general. I want everybody to hear what I'm saying. And I'm very clear. None of this is in defense of Carlee Russell. It is not. But let me be very clear here. There is no reason that the state attorney general should be involved in a case that involves 2 misdemeanors. The prosecutor from the county should have been at the news conference. But Attorney General Marshall should go sit his ass down because all he's doing is absolutely grandstanding for the cameras.
Yeah, it is grandstanding, and I fear that Matt's sentiment about this becoming political is already here. This is not, I don't want to say this is not a big deal. It absolutely is. But in the grand scheme of things, as far as crimes go, let alone in Alabama, for it, this grandstanding, people acting like this was the worst case scenario, everybody died because this woman lied about a baby crossing the highway. Like it's exaggerating. It is kind of insulting to the other crimes that are in Alabama, to the other DAs and attorneys who are trying real crimes in Alabama. And like you said, it is overboard for these people to act like there needs to be more punishment involved. If I recall correctly, there was a case in, I believe, California. Something similar happened regarding a white woman blaming Hispanic people for kidnapping her, et cetera, and it ended up being her ex-boyfriend slash new
that
lover.
was a woman.
All those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Like, hold on, Kelly. Her name is. Hold on. Her name is Sherry Papini.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She was. Wait. Check this out. They were looking for her for 3 weeks. She was laid up with an ex-boyfriend 600 miles away. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Carlee Russell, missing for 2 days. So if we're talking about resources expended, and again, I'm not dismissing it, 2 days, 3 weeks, Papini got 18 months in prison. Carlee Russell faces up to a year in jail. It's called proportionate.
It is called proportionate. And honestly, I don't know if you talked about this on your show before I came on, but it really feels like that they're pissed off they spent all this money looking for a black woman and they're trying to recoup. That's really what it looks like, and that's what it sounds like. And as a black woman, that's what it feels like, which to me says that nothing is going to change. This is not something that sets black women back. This is not something that sets black people back. They didn't care in the first place. They didn't give a damn in the first place. Had it not been for social media, they probably wouldn't have expended any money towards this case. And I think because the spotlight went on them and they had to act like they were grandstanding, actually acted like they had to give a damn about a black woman, I think they're pissed off at the fact that, frankly, she's not dead. And that's really the conversation we need to be having.
I just think that, okay, fine. Michael, I got no problem with the police chief's comments, okay? First of all, he's giving the reports. But him to say, well, we need enhancements. What the hell are the enhancements? Like, literally, there are laws already on the books And if you run, so, okay. And again, now if you want to say, if the chief said, you know what, I think the fine is too low. So, and again, I haven't pulled the law up. So if the maximum fine is $6,000, and then if you say, you know what, the law should allow for the expenses of law enforcement to be calculated, and you got to pay that back. I'll be honest with you, Michael, I got no problem with that. I don't. But for the Attorney General of the whole state to be there, why are you taking the lead in the case involving 2 misdemeanors? That's a DA's job. No, he wanted some face time. That's all he wants.
Yeah, it appears that they're trying to use Carlee Russell as a political backboard to score points from. And this is really overkill here. Now, I disagree with her making the false statement. She's charged with 2 misdemeanors, one false reporting to law enforcement, the second one falsely reporting an incident. I disagree with her making this up, but this is overkill, the way that they're going after her and then trying to go to the state legislature to have them pass harsher laws so they can inflict more pain and more legal recourse against her. Now, keep in mind, now, this is Alabama. This is the same Alabama where the GOP are defying the U.S. Supreme Court to create a second black majority congressional district. This is the same state. You think she committed a capital offense? Okay, he should go after those Republicans in defiance of the Supreme Court. Okay, so once again, this is Alabama, and you study the history of Alabama. Okay. Okay,
but Michael, he can't go after those Republicans.
I understand.
Because it's him. He is the Attorney General of Alabama. I saw the story today. He got with lawyers, conservative lawyers in D.C., and this Attorney General came up with the plan to defy the Supreme Court because he hopes that the Supreme Court is going to listen to the second case in full and vote for them. So this right here, individual, no, show it back. Show it back. This guy here, to your point, he's sitting there talking about Carlee Russell when he defied a Supreme Court directive, and he wants to talk about law and order.
Exactly. And these are the same people that support Donald Trump, too. You can't make this stuff up, okay? This is why elections have consequences, and this is why all these idiots we have to vote out of office and take out of power. That's the bottom line with this. They're all in bed together.
Well, absolutely. All right, folks, I go to a break. We come back. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis catching lots of heat over the issue of how they're defining slavery in the Florida curriculum. Well, my goodness. 2 black Republicans in Congress actually showed some guts and criticized him. We'll show you what Tim Scott said, Senator Tim Scott. We'll show you what Florida Congressman Byron Donald said. And Ron DeSantis is pissed off that they dared to call him out. That's next, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, live from the National Urban League Convention. Supporters of what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, of course, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Breen and Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible. What's to do what we do? See your chicken money orders. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get it from Amazon. Download it on Audible. Go to a black bookshop and get the book as well. I'll be right back.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop big tobacco from profiting off black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Right here on the Black Star Network. That's a view outside the George R. Brown Convention Center where the National Urban League is meeting here. All right, folks, a lot of conversations been taking place regarding Florida, how they're defining slavery, these benefits of African American, the benefits of the formerly enslaved, and how that benefited them later on. Well, Senator Tim Scott decided to weigh in, and looks like he rediscovered his black card. Press play.
As a country founded upon freedom, the greatest deprivation of freedom is slavery. There's no silver lining in freedom, in slavery. The truth is that anything you can learn, that any benefits that people suggest you had during slavery, you would have had as a free person. What slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that. And listen, people have bad days. Sometimes they regret what they say, and we should ask them again to clarify their positions. As a country founded upon freedom.
People have bad days. How about bad public policy? All right, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, he also was not happy with this from DeSantis. Y'all roll it if you got it.
It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country.
I don't want Tim Scott. I want Byron Donalds. Thank you very much. Take Tim Scott out of my ear. I want to roll Byron Donalds. He did an interview with a Florida television station where he shared his comments on this controversy, if you will. We got it? All right, cue it. Play it.
Obviously, slavery was terrible in our country. It was terrible for Black people coming to America, and it was just flat out wrong, no doubt about that.
Also wrong, according to Donalds, the critics who are lining up to use the curriculum to score political points.
So here's the deal. Okay, so that was Byron Donalds. Well, DeSantis, he ain't happy with the two blacks weighing in on this. This is how he responded.
About what Tim Scott said.
You know, I think part of the reason our country has struggled is because D.C. Republicans all too often accept false narratives, accept lies that are perpetrated by the left, and to, accept the lie that Kamala Harris has been perpetrating even when that has been debunked. That's not the way you do it. The way you do it, the way you lead, is to fight back against the lies, is to speak the truth. So I'm here defending my state of Florida against false accusations and against lies, and we're going to continue to speak the truth.
What do you think about what?
All right, so interesting there, Michael. He calls Senator Tim Scott D.C. Republicans. Not happy with these two African Americans. Earlier, he said Byron Donalds, he should not be siding against me and his state. He should not be siding with Kamala Harris. He should be standing with the state. That tells you how they feel about them black folk over there.
Yeah, he's trying to keep the Negroes in line. But here's the thing, man. I know you said that they rediscovered their blackness or something like that. It's only when it's convenient. Okay, because Byron Donalds still supports Donald Trump.
Well,
okay?
man, I get it, but listen, Michael, the whole point of rediscovering, I didn't say they rediscovered it for 24 hours, only in that soundbite.
Well, hold on, let me finish. So if you look at this, all right, Byron Donalds still supports Donald Trump. Senator Tim Scott still believes racism doesn't exist. Now, they admit that slavery was wrong, okay? What? They have nowhere else to go. Of course they're going to have to admit slavery was wrong. Senator Tim Scott is still against the black farmers getting any type of restitution. Senator Tim Scott is still against reparations.
Michael, I know what they're against. I just want to speak to what they said and how DeSantis was responsible. I know all the other stuff,
right? Okay,
but I want to stay on topic. Speak to what they said and how DeSantis is responding.
Yeah, but what they say, we also have to connect to what they do. So yes, they spoke out when it's convenient, okay, to stand up and say slavery wasn't a positive. All right, and Ron DeSantis is trying, who has a history degree from Yale University, by the way. Ron DeSantis is trying to defend the social studies standards coming from his Florida Department of Education. They don't get any respect from me. Okay, it's easy to jump and compare this to Vice President Mike Pence. He had a moment of courage, January 6th. And now he's back to being a coward. Okay, so now my thing is, where is your policy to fall in line with what you just said? See that it's easy to jump out there and say this when it's convenient, and the majority of America knows that is wrong to try to position slavery as somehow it benefited African Americans, even though, like I said last week, there are some instances where you had African Americans who gained skilled trades and were able to use them. Kofi, who was Paul Cuffey's father, was one of them, and his father gained his freedom. Okay, but no, they don't get any respect from me. They're still, I still have the same opinion of them.
I got it.
And I want to know where's your policy to fall in line with.
I got it. You ain't got to repeat yourself. Kelly.
Yes.
Your response.
Regarding just in general, or what you and Michael were talking about?
Regarding Tim Scott and Byron Donalds, and then how DeSantis responded to them.
I mean, A broke clock can be right twice a day. And I would be shocked if Tim Scott said anything other than what he said, considering his entire campaign is based off of how he is the descendant of slaves and all of that stuff. My issue is that the benefit of slavery narrative that DeSantis is trying to tout is, while absolutely terrible and incredibly incorrect, out of all of what is in these in this policy, that's just the tip of the iceberg regarding what they're trying to teach children. It is really rooted in replacement theory and the wokeisms that is Black oriented, but it's rooted in racism. It is unfortunate that I feel like we need Florida to succeed from the union, because if you want to be anti-America that badly, if you want to revise history that badly, you might as well not be American at this point, because you're not even teaching true American history.
Well, I have been, it is utterly hilarious to see Ron DeSantis try to sit here and check, if you will, and be upset with these two Black members of Congress by saying, oh, D.C. Republicans. That's pretty funny, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I think it's completely dishonest. Here's the thing about Ron DeSantis. He's talking about somebody lying, but he won't call Donald Trump a liar straight up. I guess he can't do that when he's getting rid of 1/3 of his campaign staff, but this is proof positive that there's no accountability for politicians, especially when they have incendiary rhetoric and horrible legislation. There's no loss to them, right? Teaching that slavery gave people benefits is just disgusting, abhorrent, right? And the idea that Tim Scott needs to get a pat on the back now because he finally got it right is disgusting when he shucks and jives the rest of the time. It's just the reality of it. So, one, I think Ron DeSantis is a coward because he won't call out his main foe, Donald Trump, the way he needs to with his full chest, number one. And number two, Black Republicans, I think these days are in a really bad space because it's not a Republican Party where you're talking about morals and values and, fiscal policy. It's a Republican Party that has weaponized litigation against whole contingents of the American people and is continuing to do that. We're not passing laws for the benefit of people. We're passing laws to ostracize people. So not only do I not give them a pat on the back, I think they're part and parcel with this horrible, evil machine that we see is passing this legislation on the Republican side and focusing on these issues the way that they are. And Ron DeSantis needs to not be a coward, because if he's talking about calling out a liar, I don't see how you don't start with liar in chief, Donald Trump.
I concur. Hold tight 1 second. Coming up next, Ben Crump. He gave the keynote speech at today's luncheon. We'll hear from him right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Al B. Shore joins us. Wendy Raquel joins us. Also, the brother who leads Black Men Vote. We'll have all of that right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, live from the National Urban League Convention in Houston, my hometown. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, financial literacy. Without it, wealth is just a pipe dream. And yet, half of our schools in this country don't even teach it to our kids. You're going to hear from a woman who's determined to change all that. not only here, but around the world.
World of Money is the leading provider of immersive financial education for children ages 7 to 18. We provide 120 online and classroom hours of financial education.
That's right here on Get Wealthy on Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Attorney Ben Crump addressed the luncheon attendees today, talking about how we must continue to fight against racism in this country. When he got done, he sat down with me right here on our set here at the Convention Center. Here's our conversation. All right, Ben, what's going on? I saw you up there quoting, see, anytime you use that fight on the ice, let me remind you where that came from.
Yes, sir.
That came from Alpha founder Vertner Woodson Tandy.
Yes, sir.
He said, we will fight until hell freezes over, then we will fight on the ice.
And I love it.
So when you said it, I was like, you know, he quoting Alpha Man.
You gonna always bring it up.
Always.
Well, see, from Alpha to Omega.
When you quoted Carl G. Woodson, I thought you were about to say, hey, Roland, I'm quoting Omega Man. I was waiting for it.
Hey,
I was waiting for it.
That's from Alpha to Omega.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. But thank you for always.
But you can't go Omega to Alpha.
Hey, man. Everybody needed a rough draft.
Oh. But let me remind you, if it ain't no start, you can't follow.
Well, don't start and that won't be nothing.
That's why you dress like a cap in your red tie.
This is a Ben Crump tie, so.
Ben Crump verse 9 time.
Exactly.
I had a collection with them first.
I remember.
Alpha.
All right. Support black business.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's talk about this here, man. You know, in your speech, you talked about what's happening in Florida. And when I dropped my book, White Fear, I kept trying to explain to everybody. I've been talking about this now since 2009. And that's what we're dealing with. What we're seeing right now is an absolute attack on black people.
Yeah, it is. And Roland, you know, when you read the language of the standards and the Black history curriculum in Florida, it says they will be required, that it is mandatory to teach middle school on up.
But they also are now allowing PragerU their stuff, and they are a right-wing crazy organization, and they're now allowing that in Florida.
And so they're making it mandatory, Roland Martin. We have to make it mandatory to go fight for our children and say, no, we will teach you true history.
Right.
If they doubling down, we got to double down. You know, I'm so conflicted when it comes to when they say boycott Florida, because no, we got to go encourage the people who are there fighting on the front lines to show that they're not by themselves, so they don't become overwhelmed. I appreciate it, Vice President Kamala Harris coming to Jacksonville to tell the teachers union that was opposing DeSantis that they are not alone.
Right.
So I need you, I guess this is my pitch, saying, Roland, I need you to come to Florida, come down to the Ben Crump School of Law in Miami.
So here's the deal. So the Alphas, we announced this week that we're pulling our convention out of Florida.
I understand that. Yeah.
But again, what I'm trying to get our people to understand, those are economic engines. It doesn't mean that we don't protest. It doesn't mean that we don't, in terms of what we do, but it also means that when we do come, we are thinking black. So the question is, where are we staying? Where are we eating? What are we, in terms of what dollars, if they're going into black hands, that's how we actually do that. And I think a lot of people, I use the example of King's speech on April 3rd, 1968. In that speech, everybody keep talking about the mountaintop, but that was a economic agenda. He said in the speech about us withholding our dollars from those who don't support us. And then he also talked about in that same speech how we got to move as a collective. I think part of this problem for me is that too many of us are talking and complaining about what is happening, but we're not understanding if you're not moving as a collective, you can't change it.
Exactly. You got to be strategic. This is a game of chess, not checkers. And the fact that you talked about what Dr. King said in the speech, being strategic. So often, Roland, the reason I'm up here doing interview after interview, because we have to fight in the court of public opinion.
There you go.
Because that, in many ways, is more effective than the court of law. So when you talk about black-owned media, where we get to frame our own narratives and plead our own case and not have it sanitized by mainstream media or edited out when we say anti-black legislation, they say, no, we want you to say people of color. Well, it seems like everybody, Asians, everybody can do that, but you gotta sometimes say black and be intentional about saying black and not be afraid to say black. And that's what I love about you, Roland. You always say, no, we talking about black-owned media.
Right. The B stands for black.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for. And people, and see, the thing is, I also think, again, as I'm listening to you talk, and this is what I really try to get people to understand. If you're mad about Florida today, I then have to ask, did you vote for Gillum when he ran against DeSantis?
Exactly.
Because he lost by 30,000 votes.
Yep.
And so I'm always saying, folk, you can't get mad at the reaction because the DeSantis is doing what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
The problem is when we are mad about what Trump did, what DeSantis has done, what Abbott has done. In this state right here, 75% of voters 30 and under did not vote in 2022.
Yeah.
30%. There are 700,000 eligible but unregistered African Americans in Texas right now. If 25% of those young voters vote, Abbott and Patrick are not governor and lieutenant governor. So my deal is, don't come to me complaining now if you didn't use the power of the ballot to put them out.
And the reality, they are the people who are going to be most affected by these policies. And I mean, the federal judiciary is going to be there for the next 25 years. They're going to be putting the same people who said my vote don't matter in prison, or they're going to be taking back their rights, getting affirmative action.
But Ben, you got brothers and some sisters who are saying, oh, those judges don't mean nothing. And I keep saying, seriously, I deal with it every day. I had people say, I had brothers and sisters saying, him putting Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court, that's performative. I was like, it's 9. She's 1. I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
I mean, it's asinine. And those brothers...
Again, for the people who are watching, explain to them judges.
Yeah.
You dealing with law. Explain to them why those municipal judges, district judges, federal judges, state Supreme Court judges, why those judges matter.
It matters for a myriad of reasons, but the most important is Article 3 judges are on the bench for life.
Federal judges.
For life.
Lifetime appointment.
Article 3 federal judge, that is in the Constitution. The president appoints them, the Senate must confirm them, and once they get on, for life. So that means if they gonna discriminate against you today, they get to discriminate against you for the next 40 years.
Donald Trump appointed a 35-year-old white woman who was 11 years out of law school.
Yes, hadn't even taken a deposition.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg died at 87. That means that if that white woman serves as long as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she will be a federal judge for 52 years.
Federal judges have so much power. If the Supreme Court has not decided a matter, whatever that federal judge concludes is the law of the land until the Supreme Court acts. That's how much power they got.
Right.
They not only can put you in prison, but they can decide whether you get to vote in your county, whether you get to have souls to the polls on Sunday. They get to decide if the black history is going to be taught in high school.
And one federal judge can issue a ruling and the law is unconstitutional in the whole country until it gets appealed.
Exactly. The federal judge, the old saying amongst us lawyers is, a federal judge sits a step below God, because that's the only people who can overturn their decisions, Supreme Court and God.
Then that was a federal judge in Fort Worth. My man banned the popping of popcorn because he didn't like the smell coming through his courtroom.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to talk about...
No, I'm just... Now, again, I'm from here.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Texas. I grew up as a man named Judge William Wayne Justice.
Mm.
The fact that I know the name of federal judge, because he was on TV almost every day because he ruled the conditions of Texas prisons were unconstitutional. He oversaw the Texas prison system almost for 30 years.
Nah, that's...
So every move of the Texas prison system, so I grew up hearing this man's name on the news almost every single day. That was the power of a federal judge.
Yeah. Can I give you a real-life example of how powerful federal judges are? Right now, I represent Henrietta Lack's family.
Yep.
The mortar sales where they butchered the black woman and took her cells, and her cells have been used in every medical advancement for the last 70 years. If you've had a vaccine for COVID, for the pneumonia thing, you got some Henrietta Lacks in you. Her family didn't recover a penny. Pharmaceutical company made billions of dollars.
Right.
There's a young federal judge who is on the bench who refuses to dismiss the case. So, Roland Martin, what does that mean?
Boom.
That black family finally will get some compensation for Henrietta Lacks making the world a better place for everybody. That's how powerful a federal judge.
Right. Last point here, and we've done this on the show before, and it really drives me crazy. A lot of these people have no clue what you actually do. What I mean by that is, they kill me when I see these comments, man, Crump ain't won no case. You can't prosecute a cop. You represent the family. And the reality is, in this system, that's the criminal justice system. That's what the DA's office is.
Yeah.
The reality is, the most one can do for the family representing them are civil judgments. And for a lot of people, they don't understand that y'all have been not just doing civil judgments, but you've been getting law changed as a part of it, like what happened in Louisville.
Yeah. With Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, we got the chokehold ban in Minnesota and 7 other states after George Floyd. And I think about Ahmaud Arbery, the first hate crime law to be passed in the state of Georgia. I mean, it's these things that people don't want to acknowledge. I think it's willful ignorance because they just want to be bitter. But these are the same people who won't go out and vote. They won't show up to jury duty. You know, and so I don't worry about them because, and I love you, Roland, because you always try to educate them and so forth. I don't have time for it. You know, they talked about my hero, your frat brother, Thurgood Marshall, like a dog. They talked about Dr. King like a dog. You know, they talked about all our brothers and sisters making a difference, but yet they do nothing. So what we have to understand is the people who ready to go fight for our children's future, let's go do it. The ones who just want to be internet warriors, let them be internet warriors, because the real people got to go fight.
Well, man, let me know when I can get invited down to the law school. I'll come down there. We'll do a show.
Promise.
And I give a whole lot of hell to Ron DeSantis, because y'all know I don't hold my tongue nowhere.
All right. We need you, Roland. I mean, we need you, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Black-owned media need to be in Florida to set the record straight.
Absolutely. All right, baby. Always good to see you.
Love you, man.
Keep up the fight.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. You couldn't be an alpha, but it's all good.
Thanks for the rough.
All right, y'all. When we come back, we'll talk with the leader of Black Men Vote about the importance of brothers getting out and casting that ballot in every election. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, live from the George R. Brown Convention Center, site of the National Urban League National Convention. We'll be right back. talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, our special guest, Alicia Garza, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to discuss her new book, The Purpose of Power, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart.
We live in a world where we have to navigate, when we say something, people look at us funny, but when a man says the same thing less skillfully than we did, right? Right. Everybody flocks towards what they said, even though it was your idea.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We're going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
All right, folks, that's a great shot of the Houston skyline. We're here at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston for the National Urban League National Convention. Yesterday, I caught up with the leader of Black Men Vote, talking about the importance of educating brothers about getting out and casting ballots in local, state, and national elections. Here is our conversation. Larry, we've got obviously local elections happening this year in Virginia. You've got all statewide races going on, but really people looking also 2024. What are y'all doing now? And I say not necessarily registering people, but educating black men about the stakes and connecting the dots so they understand why voting matters.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, at the end of the day, it really comes down to what's happening in your local area, right? Is that neighborhood area where you play basketball, right? Or you have local activities. Is that what you want it to be? If not, you've got to vote to change that. It isn't just the 2024 election. Even though that's important, there's always going to be local issues you need to take care of. Who is your mayor? Who is your police chief? All these things are connected to your vote.
But I think one of the things that I often encounter, I encounter brothers who, they're listening to a whole bunch of crap out here. They're listening to people who don't quite understand when there's like, I've had brothers say, oh, well, Biden putting Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court, that's performative, and these judges don't matter. And I'm going, do you understand what federal judges do? Do you understand the power that they actually have? And so, and trying to get them to understand that who you also vote for the United States Senate will dictate who confirms those judges. And so how all of these things are linked, and so we can't act like, well, I can sit a presidential election out, I'm gonna vote in the U.S. Senate race when those two go hand in hand.
Right. There's a saying, elections have consequences, right? You can't complain about it if you're not going to take part. And in reality, we actually have the opportunity as black men to swing elections, right? We're going to start off in Pennsylvania. It is going to be registration, but we're also going to be engaging black men. We're partnering with Terrence Woodbury from Hit Strategies to do really targeted research on what black men actually believe and care about in these issues. Making the assumption that you know what black men think is not going to work anymore, especially not in this environment.
Well, also, one of the things that I have been saying, I've said this to candidates on both sides, is that the black voter today is different from 30 years ago. And so the reality is there now has to be micro-targeting when it comes to black voters. And so you have to make different appeals to black men, to black women, to black business owners, to folks who are single, to those who are married. And I think historically people have just simply offered the sort of one-stop shop, or just like, hey, just one message. Well, no, that's totally changed.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're looking at, right? I mean, a black man who lives in Chicago, owns a home, has a similar but different experience to an African-American guy who's in college in Texas and has never worked a full-time job, right? And I think that making that difference and drilling down to the details, sharpening your messaging, that's what, frankly, both parties need to do. Get more real about the realities of black men, and just stop making assumptions and stop making generalizations, right? I think that at this point, African-American men need to recognize their power, and we need to take that power back.
What would you say are your 4 or 5 target states for 2024?
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and I'd say in the South, North Carolina, Georgia. And I'm not going to say this is an exhaustive list, but these are the states that we know black men can make an impact. And we're doing research to make sure that we actually even drill that down even further.
Last question for you, and that is resources matter as well. One of the things that I've said to African Americans is not to give to campaigns. I said to give to third-party groups because they're going to deploy those assets on the ground, as opposed to it going to campaigns where you largely have white media strategists who want to put the money all into television. And so, how are you looking at, what's your target in terms of fundraising target to be able to do the work next year?
Look, there is a saying, by any means necessary, right? So I think we should look at the whole table, see where we can be most effective. And I think the other piece of this is that we shouldn't limit ourselves, right? We have partnerships across the space, right? I mean, NFL Players Association, for example, folks wouldn't have thought of that as a likely partner, but they're an excellent partner for voter registration, right? There's other places that we can go as black men that we haven't considered before. I think they should listen to you because you have experience in seeing what's effective and what's not, but I don't want us to limit ourselves. That's the only thing that I have to say.
Well, but one of the things that I've been saying to African-American groups, though, we got to put a number out there. Because what happened, look, I told the grassroots folks, we were in Atlanta, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, I said all the grassroots, the number should be 500 million. That's not for black people. That's just for grassroots on the ground. I said, and so obviously you got black-owned media, you got other facets as well. We've got to make it perfectly clear that if black women are the #1 voting group among Democrats and black men are #2 among Democrats, then money needs to follow. And what we should be doing now, as opposed to waiting until 2024 for July, August, September, is saying, here's the number today. What's your plan?
Absolutely. I mean, strategically, we've launched Strength in Numbers. Our campaign is to register 1 million black men, okay? And so that ain't cheap. So folks that want to work with us, foundations, corporations, folks who believe in the agency of black men, step up to the plate, put your money where your mouth is, and let's build a movement together. That's exactly how we're thinking about this.
So if somebody wants to give or support, where do they go?
You can go to blackmenvote.org. If you want to follow us, go to Black Men Vote Official on Instagram.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, welcome back. Michael, I want to go to you. Your thoughts on what he laid out, and again, the messaging and reaching out to black men when it comes to voting.
Absolutely. It's extremely important. It has to be a targeted message. It can't be a one black person fits all message, one message fits all African Americans. You all hit on some gems. The power of judges, the power of Supreme Court judges, the power of federal judges. If we just look at what just happened in the U.S. Supreme Court, 2 very important rulings. President Joe Biden's executive order on student loan forgiveness. a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court struck that down. That policy right there would have moved 500,000 African-American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth, and would discharge for about 50% of African-Americans. It would have wiped out about the rest of their student loan debt. So what we see is how voting is tied to politics overall, the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, but it also impacts our economic conditions. When you look at Florida, I said this last week on the show, there were black people in Florida that said they weren't voting for Andrew Gillum because he didn't have a black agenda. I said, Ron DeSantis has a black agenda. He has an anti-black agenda. Andrew Gillum lost by 30,000 votes. If we understood history and understood what was coming and listened to Ron DeSantis and the white supremacists who thought Ron DeSantis was a white supremacist, we would have had enough sense to stop him. So we have to understand elections have consequences, but it's tied to everything. Politics impacts every aspect of our life, from the water we drink to the food we eat to the air we breathe. So this conversation is extremely important.
Matt, your thoughts?
I like the idea of the targeted message, not to just kind of echo what Michael said, but what I think was especially important is the idea that he focused on the local issues, because I think too often when we talk about voting, we get lost in the weeds about federal issues. But the place you see the most immediate impact is getting that pothole filled on your street, or getting the park, basketball court resurfaced at the park. And I think that's a really important thing, because a lot of times people who feel reticent to vote say, it doesn't matter what I do. They're going to, they're off in an ivory tower somewhere. They don't care about me. But your city council person or your local alderman or even your governor, states decide whether they're going to accept, Medicaid dollars, right? Federal dollars. Depending on who you vote for, that may have a measurable effect on your life. So I'm hoping that people that he talked to, particularly us, the black men, are focused on the idea that, I really can have an impact, and that impact can immediately affect my family's quality of living. And that's, I think, an important message, and one that we too often lose in the larger message about voting.
Kelly, again, what we're talking about here really is, again, as I said to Larry, black women are number one Democratic voters, black men are number two. And I think part of the thing is, when we talk about how people have reached African Americans, there's sort of this being, one broad stroke. And the reality is, you have to create this different messaging, because the black voter in 2023 is not the black voter in 1983.
Absolutely not. We just talked about a couple segments ago about how Tim Scott was giving his thoughts regarding the curriculum regarding enslavement. And I bring that up to say Black people are not a monolith, and we never have been. And we need messaging that is so tailored, not just by state, but by region, by county even, because our experiences are so unique within each jurisdiction, for every jurisdiction, whatever category is out there that affects voting. I guarantee you Black people have a very unique experience within that category that needs to be addressed. So when it comes to outreach, even though it is difficult, even though it is expensive, it must be done if we want to get anywhere as a unit. Because just because we have different methods of reaching out to Black people does not mean that Black people cannot come together and move accordingly. So when we come up with comm strategies, when we look at initiatives such as this, we definitely need to keep that in mind.
Indeed. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. We'll hear from Justin Robinson III, who runs the Houston Area Urban League. We'll also, in the next hour, hear from actress Wendy Raquel. We'll hear from Al B. Shore. Plus, we get our Education Matters. So lots more from Houston live at the National Urban League Convention, the George R. Brown Convention Center in my hometown. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Again, support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app. you can do so on all platforms: Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We're now on Plex TV and Amazon. You can watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel. I'll go to Plex TV, simply search for Black Star Network. I'll go to Live TV and go look under News and Opinion on Amazon News. Go to Amazon Fire. You can check us out there as well. If you have Alexa, you could say, Alexa, play news from Black Star Network. It's our 24-hour streaming channel. And, of course, the app as well. Your support matters to us, so please support us with your resources. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. So you can do so a variety of ways. Some of y'all are still analog. Y'all don't trust all that stuff. So see your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I thought somebody behind me had some damn jingle bells or something going on. That's my man moving his cart with the champagne flutes. So y'all hear that ringing? Nope. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is not rolling up in here with some bells. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Order from a Black bookstore, Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop, Chapters, Books A Million, Target. Download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back. In the commercial break, I'm snatching black cards.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why Black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop Big Tobacco from profiting off Black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve Black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back. Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Judson Robinson is a major name in this city. Judson Robinson was the first African-American city councilman in Houston. His son later served on the city council. He is now CEO of the Houston Area Urban League. Earlier, I talked with him about the importance of the National Urban League and what their focus is when it comes to economics for African-Americans. All right, Judson, let's get right into it. Explain to people who really don't know, what do Urban League chapters do?
Great question. We try to solve a lot of the problems of the world, though, especially for black people, trying to make sure that they're not missing a beat when it comes to education, workforce training, housing, entrepreneurship, trying to build generational wealth through self-sustainability, but making sure that the gaps are filled. If they didn't know that you could buy a home and how that process works, if you didn't know that there are programs that are free that help you to get a job, if you didn't know these things, the Urban League's a good place to just knock on the door. Not all Urban Leagues do all things, but they are at least a director to what other agencies might be in your community to help you get it done.
So when you look at your various civil rights groups, obviously NAACP has largely been focused on grassroots social activism, protest, various things. And again, depending upon the branch and where you are.
Sure.
Then you've had, of course, NAACP, LDF, legal piece. Right. Urban League was always essentially the economic economic arm of the civil rights movement.
Right. And I think that's a traditional good thing. But what we are learning is that the NAACP needs help. Other organizations who are in this social justice fight, they need more help, more assistance. So we're going to try to not only be out there on the front lines with the protest and speaking before city councils and that type of thing, but also doing the intellectual work, making sure the white papers are there to support the arguments that we are trying to make. So we've started a Center for Social Justice and Education in Houston, heavy on the education, to make sure that people know what happens at City Hall, what happens in Commissioner's Court, what happens at state level. Why do we have these bills such as SB 1 that are moving the markers back when we've had all this progress over the last 60 years?
On the national level, we're still holding so many companies accountable for commitments they made in the wake of George Floyd's death. How are you doing that for these Houston-based companies, folks who wanted credit with press releases, things along those lines, but to actually say, no, where's the money? What are you doing? How are you improving communities? And how are you investing in them? And not just making philanthropic grants, but making real investment that's sustainable over a period of years?
That's a great question. And I think that's the focus of civil rights and other community-based organizations over the next 50 years. I think we have to move beyond, here's a grant, help somebody get a job, but instead, what's the deeper dive? How do we ensure that we're not just helping someone get a job, but when they're ready to plan for the rest of their life, and they want to be in a C-suite somewhere, or they want to own a corporation, or they want to really, expand blue sky, that we have a plan for that as well. So it can't be Corporation A, here's the grant, go help somebody get a job. Let's talk deeper dive. How do we really close the equality and the equity gaps? Because we've been doing this other stuff for a long time, and it's making a degree of progress. I'm not knocking that, and I appreciate my sponsors' help. But if they're really serious, if we're really genuine about making sure that we're moving forward, it's a different deal.
One of the things we were talking about earlier, and this is something I have focused on a lot on my show, even in my speeches, is getting black business owners to understand scale. Because the reality is, it's great for us to say, oh, we have these new black businesses. But if they're small and they only got one employee, we're not seeing the kind of growth that we actually need in our communities.
Correct. And I think that there's been a focus on getting businesses started. I don't think we had as great a focus on getting people to scale. How do we think bigger? How do we talk about employing people so that we're creating more economic wealth throughout the entire community? How do we look at, acquiring businesses versus just selling them, yeah? So there are entities out there, and again, this goes back to those partners, where we're talking with those partners about what do we need you to fund? We need you to fund the opportunity to buy 5 businesses so I can expand my franchises and therefore grow.
Last question for you. I'm a firm believer in this is where we are today, this is where we're going to be 5 years from now. And so for you, where do you want the Houston Urban League to be 5 years from now? But where do you want national to also be
5 years from now?
You know, one of the things we've talked about a lot in this conference is strategic planning. The Houston Area Urban League just finished one less than a year ago, and we're about to embark upon another because the world is moving so quickly. We're having those discussions also with the National Urban League about making sure, and I think Mark's done a good job of always having pillars that we're basing our work on. But again, I think even the National Urban League is looking at being a lot more intentional with our partners, a lot more strategic, and a lot more of the newer ways of thinking about how we grow. It's important.
All right. Judson, always good to see you.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you back. Keep doing the good work that you do.
Yes, sir.
Keep us on the point.
Always.
All right.
It is about the money, Kelly, and the reality is we do have to have organizations that are locked and loaded on that. And I really think, I had Mark Morial on the show a few months ago. I really believe whether it's Morial, we have Freddie Haynes on Rainbow Push, because the NAACP used to do a scorecard where they would literally do scorecards on industries and give an A, B, C, D, F. That needs to be brought back because I think, and again, whether the Urban League does it, whether Rainbow Push, I don't care. To me, that's important because we need to know those corporations that get an F so we don't spend our money with them.
Absolutely, especially with the Supreme Court case that recently came down regarding even serving the LGBTQ plus community and how that, and I still stand by this, can absolutely be a slippery slope into Jim Crow 2.0 regarding the rationale that the court came down with to rule in that area. So as far as, like you said, these organizations, I'm a member of Urban League. I really wish I could have made Houston, but I couldn't. I have seen, especially with the Greater Washington Urban League Young Professionals, which is what I'm a part of, how we are in the community, making change, going to businesses, making sure that they're good, making sure that they are aligned with our own values should we decide to partner with them. It is absolutely essential in order to progress in the way that we need to, because everybody can't sit with us. Everybody can't make it to the mountaintop in that regard. We need people, we need businesses that can actually support us, be there for us, be there with us in this fight. And if you're not, chances are you're not doing something right within your own business.
You know what? The thing here, Matt, we talk about the money. We discussed it yesterday with Dr. Greg Carr and others, and I'm telling you, that has to be the focus. When you look at so many of the issues we talk about, it comes down to the money. I'm not saying it's the most important thing, but this is a capitalistic society, and you get folks' attention by holding your money, and you get your attention. You get their attention by demanding the money. And I believe our organizations must be far more aggressive on this front, because otherwise, if we sort of soft shoe it, then you're not going to see the changes that are necessary.
I think that's partially right. I mean, I think two things are true at the same time. I think sometimes we focus too much on the money and not the impact. However, I'll concede that the money is often a conduit to making the most forceful impact. And what I think Brother Robinson said that was really important there is that the Urban League can be a facilitator to let you know about other services that may be in your community. And to your point that you underscore here very often and very astutely is, look, there are a lot of, one employee Black businesses, and presumably there are also a lot of one or two person nonprofits. There are a lot of nonprofits and organizations that do good work, but they don't have the scale to do the work on the scale where they serve a lot more people. So I think what's important, not only about using money as an economic strategy, obviously we know that boycotts and other economic strategies are very important for exercising political pressure and getting the political outcome. However, we need to make sure that money is also used to affect people's daily quality of life, because the reality is this: none of these organizations are doing anything important at all if they don't help make our lives incrementally better, and if they don't stand on the front lines in making sure that our children, my three boys at home, live an easier and better and more inclusive, more successful life than I've lived, right? And their mission is not only to help galvanize that support through political processes and money, but also to make sure that the people that are out there who are doing the helping are connected to those who need to be helped. And I think it's important that the Urban League and all the other organizations, the patchwork, are always working towards that end. And money is important in that process, but the most important part of it is true buy-in, where we recognize for whom we do the work. And I think that the Urban League's role in facilitating that is important, and hopefully in providing scale to those that are out there doing the work and don't have the scale to do it on a larger scale. I think they're important in that respect.
Michael, again, look, the reason I say the money, you go to Congress, that's what folks talk about. And I think what has happened historically when it comes to African Americans, politicians have come to us talking about all kind of other stuff as opposed to the resources, and then we complain that we're not getting the resources. And so that's why I believe, whether it's the National Urban League or any other organization, I've said this to Ron Busby with the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. I said, there should never be a conversation about black folks and money. No, U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., because he is two. Yeah. Harry Alford has Black Chamber of Commerce, and that's a foul group, okay? He's full of it. Okay, the real Black Chamber group, the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., that's Ron Busby's group. And I've said to Ron, there should never be a conversation about African Americans and money, and y'all not there. When I spoke to the to NARAB, the Black real estate brokers, I said the exact same thing. I said, I'm tired of individuals and organizations that don't know nothing about wealth creation leading conversations about creating wealth among black folks.
Yeah, Roland, at the end of the day, the money is a big part of it, and how we use the money, and also how we leverage our economics to enforce our political agenda. And when we look at what your fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, just announced, that they're moving their 2025 national conference from Florida because of policies in Florida, Ron DeSantis policies, because of policies blocking the AP African American Studies curriculum, and then also recently with the social studies standards as well. That's an example of leveraging our economics to enforce a political agenda. And I have to take this back to 2015 in the state of Indiana, when the state legislature passed their transgender bathroom bill, and the governor at the time was a man named Mike Pence, who went on to become the vice president. Corporations were tripping over themselves to denounce what was taking place there, and they put economic pressure on the state legislature, and within about a week or so, the state legislature changed their policies, okay? Well, where's the pressure being put on corporations today with what's going on? Well, you have the fight with Disney, but I'm talking about around the African-American history lessons and things like this. So we have to leverage our economics to enforce our political agenda, just as other people do and other ethnic groups do.
Oh, you're absolutely right. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back, we'll hear from Al B. Shore. He went through a significant health crisis, folks. And we're going to send him to a hospice. He's going to talk about why African Americans must always be advocates for our health. Also, Wendy Raquel was here with us as well. Wendy Raquel Robinson, she, of course, starred on many different shows. And so we're going to hear from her, plus our Education Matters segment as well. Lots more, folks, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, live from the National Urban League Convention in Houston, Texas. Also today, a group of black mayors, they also spoke today. The mayor of Chicago, Houston, New York City, Los Angeles. They were all on the panel. It was a great conversation. We're going to show you some of that as well. It's moderated by Mark Morial, former mayor of New Orleans. Told y'all, there's a lot we're covering, and we got it all here on the Black Star Network. And let me be perfectly clear, all these other people running around here claiming new black media, where they at? Nowhere to be found. I told y'all, when y'all trying to figure out who to trust those who show up where black people are. And that's the Black Star Network. I'll be back.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. How are you being of service to others? Doing for someone beside yourself is such a big part of living a balanced life. We'll talk about what that means, the generation that missed that message, and the price that we're all paying as a result.
Now all I see is mama getting up in the morning, going to work, maybe dropping me off at school, then coming back home at night. And then I really didn't have any type of time with the person that really was there to nurture me and prepare me and to show me what a life looked like and what service looked like.
That's all on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, our special guest, Alicia Garza, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to discuss her new book, The Purpose of Power, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart.
We live in a world where we have to navigate, when we say something, people look at us funny, but when a man says the same thing less skillfully than we did, right? Right. Everybody flocks towards what they said, even though it was your idea.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, financial literacy. Without it, wealth is just a pipe dream. And yet, half of our schools in this country don't even teach it to our kids. You're going to hear from a woman who's determined to change all that, not only here, but around the world.
World of Money is the leading provider of immersive financial education for children ages 7 to 18. We provide 120 online and classroom hours of financial education.
That's right here on Get Wealthy on Black Star Network.
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
No bump? Boom. The 4 largest cities in America are led by black mayors. Of course, we're here in Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City. All of them were on stage today with Mark Morial, CEO of the National Urban League, former mayor of New Orleans, for a conversation about the jobs they do. We live stream that whole conversation on the Black Star Network. Go to our app, go to our YouTube channel, and check it all out. Here is some of what they had to say.
Big challenge now for Black America is this dual challenge that on one hand, we have justice issues, community distrust, unacceptable levels in the nation of police misconduct, brutality, and shootings. On the other hand, we're killing each other. We have black on black violence as well. The mayor is in the vortex of every single one of these challenges and has to navigate. So Mayor Adams, let's go to you. How do you think and what's your message and strategy? You have a unique background when it comes to this as a former law enforcement officer, but also someone who has publicly talked about how you were harassed by the police as a young black man. Talk a little bit about how the balancing act, and I want all of you all to answer this question, the balancing act or the conflict between these issues in reality and in perception.
First of all, take the H away from harass, and I got my ass kicked by police. So let's be clear on that. I was arrested, I was beat, went into the police department, started an organization called 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care, fought for civil rights issues within the police department, testified in federal court about the overuse and abuse of stop and frisk. The federal judge mentioned my name in the report when she ruled against the police department. The legacy of my fight against law enforcement is clear. Now, some people want to rewrite the history, but in reality, when other folks were silent on this issue nationally, I was a leading voice in this country about over-abused policing nationally. What we must do is what Archbishop Desmond Tutu stated. We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. Policing, by the time a child has a gun, we're already lost. The question is what happened to cause that from taking place? When I sit down with gang members and I ask them, how many of you dealing with learning disabilities? It's astonishing. 30 to 40% of the people who are in jail right now are dyslexic. I was on a path of doing the same things. If we don't go upstream, while we deal with the crime downstream, let's be clear, we can't be just upstream. because Bebe is creating some havoc right now in our streets. So we have to identify the extreme recidivists, give them the assistance they need, but we have to stop the pushing people in the river. That is what we're doing.
I believe that in our communities, we've worked for years and know the strategies to intervene and prevent crime. There's always the rap that black folks are upset if it's a law enforcement involved death, but say nothing when it's black on black, which I reject that notion. That is not true. But unfortunately, the grassroots work that happens in all of our communities is never lifted up, and we need to invest more in that. When we went through the time period of mass incarceration, which is not like it's over, but it's a little bit different now, you know, laws were passed to lock us up for everything under the sun, including what I believe were health, social, and economic issues that should not have required incarceration. Then laws were passed by politicians who wanted to be reelected and wanted to have their mailer that said, I did this to be tough on crime. Then a lot of laws were passed to continue punishing people when they left prison. So you are incarcerated while you're in, and then you continue to be punished when you're out.
So leadership, there is no substitute for leadership. Now, when there's a police shooting, mayors have to deal with that. When there's a shooting on one another, mayors have to deal with that. We are on both sides of the equation. And cities have to deal with everything, Mayor Adams, that flows down. So when the state of Texas passed policies that say anybody can have a gun, no permits, no licensing, and guns are everywhere, all of that flows down to cities. And we are the ones, as mayors, that have to deal with those crazy, idiotic policies. If you are making the market attractive for guns and making guns available and accessible, what do you think people are going to do with them when they get them? But it's up to us to deal with it. So what we did is that it does require a holistic strategy, because as a society, we have called on the police, law enforcement, and I think, Mayor Johnson, you made mention of this, we call on police to do everything, and they cannot do everything.
It's going to require all of us that in order to have better, stronger, safer cities, we have to invest in people. You know, you already know, I know we only have a few more moments here, but my father raised me with the understanding that your heart and treasure have to be aligned. That when you really love people, you invest in them. And, you know, Reverend Al Sharpton, since he brought up the governor of Alabama, and I'm a social studies teacher, I would not be outdone, all right? So if you remember when the Great Society was being pushed, and President Johnson understood through all of our collective work that we have to get at the root causes, that we have to provide support on the front lines, of course, but we have to deal with poverty. And the governor of Alabama, Wallace, said that, you know, President Johnson believes that because someone at 10 years old has committed a crime, that it means they didn't have enough watermelon to eat. I mean, that's what he said. And so when we talk about the press corps, it's not like white supremacy was birthed, you know what I'm saying, during Trump's reign, right? So there's always been this battle or fight against liberation, particularly for black folks, because the power structure understand what works, because they want it for their communities, right? And so as we push for this great society, I believe unemployment amongst white men was 30%. Our country called it a national crisis. They said it was too dangerous for America to have that many white men unemployed. And when you come through our cities and you see the struggles and challenges that our people are experiencing, we have stuff to dig, things to build, and lives to save. White men got shovels before there were things to dig. They came with every single government program. No one called it entitlement. No one talked about bootstraps or strings or pulling yourself up. And so having a layered approach where one, we're moving on something called treatment, not trauma. 40% of the 911 calls that come through are mental health crises. You have police officers that are being called to people's homes because their 6-year-old doesn't want to go to preschool and they lock themselves in the room. We're asking too much from law enforcement. And so investing in people, doubling the amount of young people that we hire, I've made a commitment to promoting 200 more detectives to deal with the clearance rate. But the bottom line is we have to have a collective response to what we know works.
Let's talk about minority business, black business, growth, and participation. So let me set the question up. The Biden administration has made these extraordinary commitments Congress has passed to infrastructure. Significant amounts of the money will come to states or airports or water systems, state departments of transportation, and in some instances to local public works departments. And therefore there's this incredible opportunity for there to be inclusiveness. And I know, Mayor Adams, because we worked with your team on your efforts at the New York legislature recently to address some of the systemic barriers to participation. How does this fit into your agenda?
So important. As I stated, we have over $106 billion budget, over 302,000 employees. Our procurement for goods and services, it's over $20 billion. And what we found is that the key to proper cities, you have to look at your agencies. How are your agencies spending? And if you don't take control and make sure that they have a real plan of MWBE and ensuring that they are being actively recruiting and identifying pathways of going from being subprimes to primes. We were able to successfully do two things during our legislative session. Hats off to Leader Carl Hasty and Majority Leader Andrew Stewart-Cousins. We were able to, number one, get local hiring. So if we're using governmental dollars to do things, we need to hire locally, because communities should not watch buildings go up and their futures go down. It needs to be connected, and we were able to do that. We were also able to increase the discretionary amount that you can use for discretionary contracts to $1 million. It was $500,000. We were able to increase it to $1 million because of our state lawmakers. But we're also using technology now to see what our agencies are doing. You can't wait to the end of the year and do an analysis of how well you did the previous year. We are monitoring it now in real time. My mother used to say, if you don't inspect what you expect, it's all suspect. We got to inspect it right away and tell that person who is not meeting my expectations, you have to correct your actions and come up with an improvement plan. You have to move bureaucracy out of the way. It is too damn difficult to do business in many of these cities because we create these bureaucratic barriers to really de-incentivize those women and minority-owned businesses from leaning into how to do business with the city. Businesses are important, and we're focusing heavily on that.
Thank you, Mayor Bass.
Well, I certainly agree with that, especially when it comes to the bureaucracy. But one of the things that I found fascinating is that a lot of the bureaucracy is just made up. It's just self-imposed. There's no particular reason for it at all, which is why it's been kind of nice not having worked in the city. So I come in and the stuff just looks crazy to me. But, you know, the other thing is that we have to be aggressive in terms of not just telling somebody the website. We have to bring our businesses in.
And I'll say is this, I don't mean to trigger anyone on this stage, but the DNC is in Chicago. And this is a tremendous opportunity for us as we build up the infrastructure to create these type of investments for our people. I believe there's more than enough for everyone. And so as we make sure that black businesses in the city of Chicago experience the wealth of the city and what the DNC will bring, I'm happy to share some with my other mayors from around the country. So.
Folks, if you want to see the entire conversation with those black mayors, again, go to the Black Star Network app. We come back, our Education Matters segment. We also are going to hear from my man, Al B. Sure. Plus, we got a little something from last week when we were in the Cincinnati Music Festival. All of that right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Yes, we are here in New Orleans at the National Urban League Convention. 70%, folks, of kids in foster care dream of going to college. 3% start college, just 1% graduate. The big issue, of course, deals with their families not having the resources. Move-In Day Mafia is a nonprofit organization that provides dorm makeovers and everything an underserved HBCU freshman needs to kick off their year. Joining us right now is TJ Mercer, founder and creator of Move-In Day Mafia, joining us from Atlanta. TJ, glad to have you here. So, where does this come from? Move-In Mafia? What's up with that?
Move-In. Well, first of all, I am so excited. You just upped my credibility with my dad. I worked in television for 25 years, and this is probably his most proudest moments. So let me just say, let me get that out the way and have my fan moment.
What's your dad's name? What's your dad's name?
Reverend Marvin Mercer Sr.
The Reverend Marvin Mercer Sr.?
Yes.
All right. Well, Reverend Mercer, your daughter is on the show. Glad you enjoy the show, and we're glad to provide the platform. So go right ahead.
So So Move-In Day Mafia actually, Mr. Martin, was born because when the pandemic first broke out, I had moved to Atlanta and I was lonely. So I created this virtual bingo game. Then as we watched, graduations get canceled, I was like, God, being a graduate of the Howard University, I stand and rock hard for HBCUs just like you. And I wanted to do something, to encourage the grads. So we created HBCU Bingo. And in a short amount of time, in less than 4 weeks, we raised over $1.5 million in cash and prizes, and we gave it away to the 2020 grads, about 500 of them, in a series of bingo games that I produced just like my TV shows. Well, that caught national media, and they interviewed myself and another one of my grads, and I learned in that interview that when she was a student, she had aged out of foster care. Her social worker drove her to college, pulled up to the curb, let her unload what little stuff she had, and then just left her. And that did something to me, because up until that point, I had never thought about this demographic of kids. That was not my move-in day. And so once again, I prayed, asked God for him to show me what I can do in this situation. And then Move-In Day Mafia was born.
Wow, that's pretty awesome there. How many folks have you actually helped?
So this is only our second year. First year, last year, we moved in 13 freshmen at Paul Quinn College in Dallas. We're tripling our efforts this year and moving in 39 across Fisk University, Prairie View in near Houston, Texas, and going back to Paul Quinn for another 13. So a total of 39 scholars.
Wow, that's pretty good. Now, do you have people who are contributing to help with this move-in, help you with the resources?
Absolutely. Our donors, as a matter of fact, while I was waiting, to come on your show, Kim Whitley called me from vacation, being that she's a Fisk grad, and being that you are an alpha man, you might appreciate that one of our scholars, I won't say what school he's going to go to just because of protection of his privacy, but one of our scholars was homeless, couch surfing, and he was taken in by some alpha men, and he actually was taken in. They paid for his pledge fees. So now I've tapped into all my alpha men to get his supplies covered. And so when I say the outpouring is incredible, it really is from all walks of life. People are pulling together to create teams. I've actually created a page just for you and your alpha brothers, moveindaymafia.org/Roland Martin. You can donate, you can volunteer, but it really is becoming a movement. And I'm thrilled because this is only year 2. So we've done quite a bit, and we got so much farther to go.
All right. Question from my panel. Matt, you first.
Well, I'm glad you started with me first, and I'm not surprised that this is a graduate of the Howard University. I'm also a Bison, so shout out to you, HU. You know for recognizing this. This is so important because, like in the state of Texas, for instance, when a student ages out of foster care, I believe the system will cover at least their college fees until the age of 26. So all the degrees up to 26, but the reason that's so important is because there's still such a wide gap between that tuition and all of the needs, that they have as it relates to going to college, because not only tuition is expensive, as is everything else. So my question to you is, what, if any, buy-in have you had from the universities and or even just the social services systems of Texas and Georgia that will help suture that gap? Because that's where a lot of college students suffer, is not having the money for meal plans and other things like that. So has there been buy-in from the institution?
Absolutely. We have incredible relationships with Paul Quinn, Dean Maurice West. We have an incredible relationship with the Dean of Housing at Fisk, who has really been facilitating us getting access to the students that fit our criteria. And as well as Prairie View has an entire department. Mr. Norman is in charge of the department at Prairie View that covers the foster care liaisons. So we really have, and they are so happy to have us, and are really have gone over and beyond of helping us get the word out to the students. Because to be honest with you, what we have found, we just did a whole bunch of surprise student notifications on Saturday. And what we have found is the challenge is these students think we're too good to be true. And they don't really apply because they're thinking that's the way. It's like when we notified one of the students who was going to be going to FISC, this young man, his public defender and his mom convinced him to take a 3-year plea deal for something he did not do. So he's excited of getting out of his city to get to FISC. And he was explaining to us when we notified him, he was like, I didn't even think I had a shot. I just didn't think I had a shot. And so for us, it really is important to have the schools behind us because that is giving us the credibility that we need. So these students know, no, we're not too good to be true. We are a group of volunteers that's coming from all over the country to just move you in and get you started. But we're not leaving you just then. Like our program is designed and created with the mission of taking care and walking them through all the way to graduation. We are really serious about disrupting that foster care to prison pipeline and replacing it with the foster care to HBCU graduate pipeline.
Michael.
All right, hey TJ, this is a great idea. I went to a commuter school, didn't go to HBCU, graduated from Wayne State University here in Detroit. But I wanted to know how many volunteers do you typically need to move in the average college student, and then also like what are some of the items that you need donated? What are some of the things that you need donated as well to help you for the 2023-2024 school year?
Okay, so I'm going to take the first question, and then if I forget what the second question is, we're going to revisit that. But the first question is, when we moved into 13 last year, that was our first year. And so with anything as a pilot program, it's learning pains, growing pains, and things like that. So we didn't have not nearly as many volunteers as we needed. This year, we're looking at like 6 teams of 4 to get each room set up because we want to make sure everything is done before we leave, that when they start classes, they have the space that they need to be creative, to thrive, to get cozy, to get comfortable. So question number 2 was what kind of items? Anything you think a college student would need. So for us, we actually have found partners. Like last year, we had a partner named Trade and Travel. An hour before we were getting ready to go shop, she sent us $17,000, which we were able to get brand new TVs, refrigerators, sheets, cleaning supplies, school supplies, money in their pocket. We left them with $100 cash so that they could just have fun and be a college student, because that really is what's important to me. I want them to go to school, study hard, party a little bit occasionally, but then ultimately graduate so they don't have to be worried about where they're going to get deodorant, where they're going to get soap. And so the desire and the goal is to once a month, we're looking for partners, corporate partners who can be responsible for sending, care packages that have the deodorant, the soap, the detergent, rolls of quarters, for them to wash. All of that is important because we got to get them to graduation.
All right, TJ, tell folks where to go to get more information.
So moveindayMafia.org/Roland Martin. moveindayMafia.org/Roland Martin is where you can donate and sign up to be a volunteer. And our first Move-In Day starts next weekend at Fisk University, followed by the weekend after that will be Paul Quinn College, and the weekend after that will be Prairie View A&M.
All right then, TJ, thanks so much. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much. Let me thank Kelly, Matt, as well as Michael, who've been on my panel today. Thank you so very much, folks. I appreciate it. See y'all next week. When we come back, Al B. Sure, we'll chat with him. Plus, we'll close out the show, me and Snoop Dogg on stage together. You know it. I'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, our special guest, Alicia Garza, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to discuss her new book, The Purpose of Power, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart.
We live in a world where we have to navigate, when we say something, people look at us funny, but when a man says the same thing less skillfully than we did, right? Right. Everybody flocks towards what they said, even though it was your idea.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
This is your boy, Earthquake.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Here at the National Urban League Convention, we almost lost him a few months ago. He and I chatted about the health experiences, the health scare that he suffered, and why he is becoming an advocate for people to advocate for themselves in the healthcare industry. Al B. Sure, what's up, my man?
Greetings, King. Greetings. Good to see you.
How's it going? No, it's good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
Bruh, for folks who don't know, you've been posting on social media. Woo! You at the brink.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why my new catchphrase, don't let anybody tell you that God is good. Chicken is good. God is truly amazing. So I am here. And first of all, it's so good to see you.
Likewise, my man.
I have this beautiful picture of you and I at the Essence Festival with President Obama in the background. And we're just having
Gotta have a good backdrop.
Gotta have a great backdrop. Absolutely. Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You were, because you were like in a coma for 2 months?
3 months, close to 3 months. Yeah, absolutely. Had a liver transplant. I was on a ventilator for 38 days. I was intubated, 5 surgeries, 104 fever. I was septic, fell into a coma, and basically expired. But they were sending me to hospice, and of course, having the.
It was sending you to hospice.
They were sending me to hospice. Woo! Having the blessing of having Reverend Sharpton, Attorney Crump, Rachel Nordlinger, being advocates and saying, "Hey, listen, you can't send him. He's going to be mad if he comes back." He says, "No, that's not going to happen." So I'm truly blessed, and I'm just truly blessed to be here.
Well, see, the point that you just made there. And it's hard for a lot of people to get it. The reality is, in this healthcare system, it really requires folk to be hardcore, family members to be on it, to be making demands of folk. And a lot of times, like, well, I don't mean too pushy. No.
This is the time to be, because tomorrow's not promised.
I tell you, ain't no flip side to death. When you're gone, you're gone.
This side of the grass is the best place to be. I'm trying to tell you. So you are absolutely correct. Having an advocate, very specifically, and I'm very proud of our brother Fat Joe to see what he's doing within the healthcare system as well.
Right.
And I'm enjoying actually sharing the testimony everywhere I travel. Being an advocate for the Kidney Foundation, doing speaking engagements, really connecting with people to understand, very specifically with you and I as professionals. We're not privileged related to medical. Go see the doctor.
Yeah.
If you feel something, you figure out a way. And
man, I get a twinge. I'll be like, let me see how long that's gonna last.
That's a
like
blessing.
I'm not sitting here walking around.
Tomorrow, I'll worry about it tomorrow.
Bro,
there's no tomorrow.
There's some brothers, man, it was a young brother. I was on the radio with him in Dallas. Dude had a blood clot. was complaining about his legs. His boys were like, yo, man, call an ambulance. He said no.
Okay.
He ain't here.
Wow.
That blood clot went to the heart. He gone.
Wow. Wow.
He wouldn't let them call ambulance until it was too late.
Yep. And you know what? The sad part about that, Roland, is in most cases, we don't call the ambulance because of insurance.
Yep.
Or being concerned about a hospital bill.
Yep.
I can't. I remember, I'll give you a quick story. I remember being on the freeway in Houston. There was a really bad accident. I'm from New York. You know, I skid out, pull over, jump out the car, try to address the young man. He's bleeding from the head, cars banging to the side. I'm trying to stop traffic. And I said, you know, young man, please sit still. You know, how can I help you? Are you in pain? You know, I'm on the phone trying to call. No, sir, I'm good. I said,
you're like, bro.
No, I said, I need to call. No. The most gut-wrenching and significant memory that this young man said to me, he said, yo, big unk, man, if I go to the hospital, my mother can't pay that bill. And he's bleeding from the head. He's bleeding from the head. It looks like his arm was fractured.
Your mama gonna be paying a funeral bill.
Right, but see, again, those are our first steps.
Absolutely.
And we really need to implement some sort of legislation. That's why like I said, I love to see what Fat Joe is doing related to the healthcare system and just making people aware. And it's time to make some change, absolutely. But let's give a shout out also to the medical professionals.
Yeah.
Dr. Mobley, Dr. Kosla, you know, a black woman did my liver transplant. She's one of the leading surgeons in the world. Dr. Mark Hobecki, it's just such an amazing, and our brother DJ Eddie F, you know, was an advocate as well. So I had a really strong team, and I'm grateful. But you know what the most important thing is? That praying mother.
Oh, of course.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Praying mother.
Prayers work. Prayers work.
Absolutely.
You know, you know, you were talking about, you know, I don't care how busy you are. I don't care what you get. I mean, the reality is you can be incapacitated.
Correct.
And I think what is unfortunate when we talk about this system is that a lot of people, man, I don't want to share that. And look, everybody make their own decision. Jamie Foxx just went through a serious medical deal.
Absolutely.
His family had it on lock, didn't want to tell anybody what was happening. That's everybody's call. But you were very public. And there were a lot
Well, this was at the last minute because I was private the first 6 months because I was, you know, tied up in a hospital bed with tubes everywhere. My oldest son happened to mention it because he came to visit on his birthday, and he said, hey, listen, you know what? This is the best birthday gift I've ever had, just to knowing my dad is alive. And everybody's like, huh? We were wondering, what happened to Al B. Sure?
Right.
Like they were trying to figure it out. So, but other than that, you know, we kept it pretty quiet. And, you know, I mean, you get it. You don't want anybody to see you like that.
Right.
You know, and I was in pretty bad shape, you know.
But when it went public, though, this is what I think we do. When it went public, it actually began to help others because people started going, hold on, they started thinking about their own issues. And so you going public became a blessing to a lot of people who ordinarily would have kept it private.
Absolutely. Roland, you're so correct. And me not understanding the magnitude of my digital footprint, I mean, I don't want to ruin my whole Secret Garden situation, but you know, you know me, I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm into Google Analytics. I'm into data research and understanding where music plays in hemispheres, but also understood that my digital footprint related to even this entire health situation and the music and seeing some of the statements like where the music plays in Uganda and South Africa, I mean, everywhere. Yep. But also my story reached people from each nation and hearing from people from each nation, from Ghana, from Joburg, Germany, and sharing a story about how we have this parallel universe and people going through these health issues.
There you go.
So now the rest of my life will be spent, of course, being an advocate for our health, making sure that we go see the doctor, in addition to something right now that your brother and my brother, Mr. Attorney Ben Crump, you know, we call him Black America's Attorney General. We're working on something very significant right now related to royalty recovery and restoration. You know, the labels are sitting on billions of dollars in uncollected revenue, uncollected royalties, including myself. And, you know, I'm the lead advocate at this point in terms of making sure that the artists from our generation are, satisfied.
Yep.
With receiving their royalties. And it's a struggle, it's a fight, but the old contracts are somewhat antiquated.
Absolutely.
In addition to the John Crow version of the abacus and the new technology.
Yep.
See, back in '88 when I signed to Warner Brothers, the technology didn't exist publicly related to these streaming platforms.
Yep.
So now you see SAG and AFTRA and all the...
Well, I remind people all the time, people forgot. You could download Prince's music before Apple Music existed.
Absolutely.
Prince was there when he said he was doing downloaded music, and that was on Apple Music.
He spoke to me about this frequently. First of all, we were label mates at Warner Brothers.
Yep.
We did Tevin Campbell's album together, and he would talk to me about this in terms of the masters and owning your ownership but he implemented that idea along with. Remember our friend Dick Griffey from Solar Records, and just talked about slave ship to ownership, and the tide is changing.
But they also were understanding and I was literally having this conversation earlier with a brother. You need to understand the business of your business.
Correct.
The creative side is great and wonderful.
Right.
So people, same thing. I had another woman come up here, and again, I'm talking to the brother over here. So again, it's great knowing, how to interview and the lights and the camera. But you better understand the monetization.
Absolutely.
You better understand that's the business of the business.
Yeah.
And too many of us, we're learning it after we went through hell.
Afterwards.
Versus on the front end.
Because, and it's so significant what you said, because this isn't the music business. It's the business of music.
Boom.
It's not the entertainment business.
Boom.
It's the business of entertainment.
There you go.
And but I thank you for addressing that. And you always use your platform, Roland. I mean, I want to say thank you to you also. You've always used your platform. I'll keep it street. You keep it a buck, always. And I'm a fan.
Appreciate
all
it.
day, every day, and I appreciate what you do. And thank you for just bringing light. I mean, I've watched you in so many different forums, whether it's in a court system or going against a politician and making them be accountable for things they say, things that they're voting for. And you've always been that advocate. And that's why myself, along with my attorney, Ben Crump, we love you. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it, brother.
And we thank you for allowing us, first of all, on your platform, and continued success, my man.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to have to see you at Essence Festival so you can dance in the aisle. That should be a T-shirt.
Hey, listen.
You already know.
Look, I'm real simple.
I saw you, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I was on stage last night.
Look, Roland Martin, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Hey.
All the lyrics.
I was on stage last night. Manny Fresh was on. I said, listen, last week I was in Cincinnati for Cincinnati Music Festival.
And I just missed you because my first concert back, I did Washington Park. We set the record for attendance in downtown Cincinnati, which I was so blessed. Roland, I was in tears the first 10 minutes of the concert because I did an hour.
Wow.
I never thought I could do it, but, the encouragement and just having that belief and, this is what I was blessed to do, so go ahead and use my vehicular expression to
there you go. Well, Snoop closed it out.
Oh, man.
And I'm on the side of the stage, he ends his set with Before I Let Go.
Wow.
So I'm sitting here, I'm dancing.
Doing the Rolling Martin. This ain't the Albie Shore.
I was spinning.
This ain't the Albie Shore dance.
I hear
Rolling
the spin, turn around. So Snoop sees me. Snoop went, come out, brought me. So center stage, me and him just getting it.
The Dog Father and Rolling Martin.
I tell you, when the beat drop, I'm a dance. If my legs work, I'm going to use them.
The Dog Father and Roland Martin, news at 11.
That's how we do it.
Yes,
wait a minute. And then he sends me a text. He was like, yo, I want to show you your network. I was like, we can have that conversation, baby.
Come on now.
That's it.
Come on now.
Man, always good to see you.
And blessing, King.
I appreciate it. Keep handling your business.
Thank you,
You're gonna
sir.
Keep supporting the music and keep being an advocate. And you know me, I'm going to keep bringing the funk.
Come on, let's go.
Yes, sir.
This is how we do it.
Yes,
that's Montel, right?
Oh, that's right. That's Montel.
My man.
I appreciate it, babe.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Going to break. We come back. We're going to show you that video of me on stage with Snoop. That's our moment of the day for the Cincinnati Music Festival, brought to you by Procter & Gamble. That is next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, so last Saturday, Snoop Dogg closed out the Cincinnati Music Festival. And so let me tell you what happened. So he's performing, he finishes his song, and then he put on Before I Let Go by Frankie Beverly and Maze. So he's on stage, Dave Chappelle's out on stage, and so I'm on the side of the stage, all right? And I'm over there just grooving everything. So you're going to see in a moment, there's a moment where Snoop Dogg sees me dancing, and he goes, come on out. So you know, I got to go do a little two-step. And this is what happened. Man, we had so much fun with Snoop Dogg and Dave Chappelle. We certainly appreciate that. Folks, that is it for us live in Houston. Tomorrow I'm going to be I got to fly back to Dallas. The Alphas are still meeting. I'm going there. The person, the brother, General Brown, appointed by Biden to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is being honored at the Alpha Phi Alpha military breakfast. I'm literally flying back to do that. All the brothers are going to be there for a book signing as well at 11 a.m. And then, of course, we got a day party that I'm hosting with Spinderella. I'm going to see y'all there as well. And so check my social media for more information. And so we want to thank Mark Morial, the CEO of the National Urban League. We want to thank Candace with his team and all the people with the Urban League, making it so easy. We cover a lot of these stuff, a lot of interviews. We live stream the plenary sessions. So we appreciate them partnering with us here at the Black Star Network. If y'all missed all of that, just go to our Black Star Network app, go to Amazon News, go to Plex TV. You can go to our YouTube channel. All the content is there. and we appreciate that. Shout out to the staff, everybody here for this production. Great work this week. You always know how we end the show every Friday. We always want to thank the contributors, the people who give money to our show. So first and foremost, if you have not donated, please do so. Send a check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, the Wendy Raquel Robinson folks interview. We had so much other content. I'm going to run that on Monday's show. Look forward to that. So, Control Room back in D.C. Y'all go ahead and roll our names of our Brenda Funk fan club members. I'll see y'all Monday. Holla!